Hi everyone, I've got Martin Brockman with me today, GB Decathlete, um, athletics expert, and we thought we would discuss the importance of athletics in the curriculum, really. So, first of all, thanks for coming on, Martin, and maybe you could just explain to us why you think what benefits there are of having a strong athletics program at your school.
Well, thanks for having me on, Chris, and hello everyone, I guess. But I mean, athletics for me, we talk about athletics being the foundation of other sports. So pretty much every sport is made up of running, jumping, throwing in some form, some variation. And athletics has the athletes who run the fastest, they can jump the highest, jump the furthest, and they can throw the furthest. And they do that in lots of different variations. So if we're teaching people to throw in different ways, we're teaching people to jump in different ways, that is the kind of foundational skills we're looking for or to build upon for all of the other sports.
So let's say let's take three sort of areas, if you like, why we should have athletics as part of our physical education program, why we should have athletics as a standalone sport, and then also why we should have athletics so we can transfer, let's say, to invasion games, because most schools will play invasion games, so netball, hockey, rugby, football. So the benefits for, why should it be on our physical education curriculum, Martin?
Well, I think we've just had the Olympics, which is a good start because athletics is one of the major sports in the world. And it's also a sport that's a little bit different to other sports, where it's not a team game, it's not an invasion game, it's not quite as artistic as gymnastics or dance, and it's still an individual sport. So it ticks a lot of boxes, as we said, in terms of that underpinning movement, but it's also a different sport, and therefore we're building different skills, but we're also building different psychological traits. Learning how to be an individual athlete
Yeah.
is also one of the traits they can transfer over to team sport, where they're an individual within a team.
And when I was director, I used to love the track and field cup in the UK. So 14 people on a team, everyone has to do a track event and a field event, and the points add up, a bit like in the decathlon. So including the track and field cup, which I think is a fantastic event. What other benefits are there for you for athletics as a standalone sport? So, not for PE or not for transfer, but just as a standalone sport. What are the things that you maybe got out of it as an athlete at school and in your career?
I mean, I think for me, I loved athletics at school because I struggled with the subjective nature of other sports. And there's a whole group of people like me. And to be honest, with the athletics people, they're usually all a bit ADHD, but we're all a bit nuts. But it allows people to shine on their own merits. And there's a whole group of students that really enjoy that. I was definitely one of those people. I could play team sports, but I really struggled to develop a personality within that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that athletics has a huge variety. So when we're teaching it in school, quite often with football, it's might be passing, it might be shooting, but to most students, that's still football.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was for me. It's 6 weeks of football, 6 weeks of rugby. Whereas athletics is 1 week of sprinting, 1 week of long jump, 1 week of shot put. It really creates massive variety within our program.
Yeah. And then there's something for everyone. I mean, even if you're not striving to be an Olympian, if I can run, 8 minutes for the 1500 one week and I run 7 minutes the next week, as you say, the nature of it is I can see my improvement. What about how would you persuade? So let's say I'm a netball coach, netball coach, rugby coach, football coach, even cricket, which clashes with athletics for many schools in the UK summer. Why should those sports be embracing athletics?
So I did a whole workshop on this in China. And what we did is we worked through sprinting, jumping, throwing, and here's how I would teach you skills within athletics. So with something like sprinting, it was here's how we would teach acceleration up to the point where we might introduce the block start. We don't need that in football or in rugby. But there are times, taking a sport like rugby, how many times are we on the ground and getting up from the ground and sprinting as fast as we can to get back in the game? Or football, where we're changing direction, netball, we're changing direction, running into that tiny bit of space as quickly as we can. All these sports happen over 10 meters. if you can be brilliant at accelerating, that creates a huge advantage. Same thing, something like basketball. I I, I was not a good basketball player. I could play in the team and play pretty well because I could jump. I'm the high jump. I could jump and I can take the ball out of the air from anyone, which creates a huge advantage when we're doing things like rebounds. So it, teaching these skills, I think the other sports, running, jumping, and throwing, is something we do within the sport. Whereas athletics, that is the sport.
Yeah.
So in football or team sports, we might teach sprinting as part of our training, but we never go that level deeper where we teach them actually how to sprint. And that's what athletics is really about.
Yeah. And let's face it, I don't think there's any sport where being quicker is not an advantage.
No, and even things like learning to throw a cricket ball in from the outfield. You can throw a javelin 60 meters, or maybe for some of our students, 30 meters might be optimistic, but if they can throw 30 meters, that's plenty good enough for cricket. They don't need 60 meters. But in having the technique, learning how to put the foot down to create a block, to then throw the ball in distance, if we've got 10 players to choose from that can do that, we've got a pretty good selection for our team.
Yeah. And my perception is that maybe some teachers struggle with the technical knowledge of athletics because they haven't covered it on their course, or maybe they've come from a non-physical education background, and there are academic staff teaching games within schools as well. So how would teachers improve their technical knowledge and their confidence around teaching athletics?
Well, this is one of the questions I got a lot as a decathlete, which is how do you find the time to train for 10 events? And the answer is that we don't. What we do is we train common movement skills that are transferable across lots of sports. So, for example, there's a rhythm. It's a 1-2 rhythm. That is our rhythm for the long jump takeoff, triple jump takeoff, high jump takeoff. It's our rhythm into the hurdle. It's the rhythm that we use to put our foot in for a block for javelin. So actually, we're looking at things like that. Can we teach these movement patterns? This is what I'm talking about, the underpinning foundational movements. We can teach, if we have 5 or 6 of these that we can teach really well. Postures is a really good one. Having an upright running posture, I teach that through sprinting, but we can transfer that into all of our jumping, all of our sprint running events. So it's really about having an understanding of what they are, and then applying those to really basics. Put your feet here, turn your hips and deliver, but we know how to sequence the movement. We know how to have good posture. That's how we teach multiple events. I don't teach 10 different events. I teach 10 different things and I use them in 10 different ways.
Yeah. And obviously, without embarrassing you, your scheme of work for athletics that I've used myself is brilliant. And I think if you were a novice teacher or you were someone who wanted to stretch yourself, the resources are genuinely really, really good. So I would, highly recommend that to people if you haven't seen those. And then I suppose finally, Martin, a lot of staff and children are maybe turned off athletics, 20, 30 years ago, we're running the 1500 meters today, or, we do the long jump, everyone stands in a queue and they jump one after each other, or maybe teachers teach the throws and are not confident because of maybe the danger element. So how can we make athletics more exciting for those pupils and staff so they genuinely go out and they want to, we want them loving athletics?
Well, I think the first thing is to remember that they're students, they're not athletes. And that means when we do athletics, it doesn't have to be athletics. So when I do my workshops, I don't touch endurance unless someone requests it. Because endurance is something that it's running around the field. We don't have to worry about building capacity. We're not worried about race tactics and that kind of thing yet. So if we're taking a skills-based approach, endurance doesn't really have a place in athletics at a younger age group. At the younger age group, if we want to build endurance, we're much better to do it through small-sided games and evasion games and put it in our warm-up if we want to teach the tactics and a little fun relay game that we can do. So I leave endurance out until the older age groups, when you've got kids that are engaged. Other than that, I mean, again, if we're taking a skills-based approach, something like long jump, mine was the same. It was, okay, we're doing long jump today. Here's how you do a takeoff, right? Take it in turns. We've only got 3 jumps each because there's 30 of us. But actually, if we're teaching skills, all of the postures that we're talking about, all of the rhythms that we're talking about, all of the timing of the landing, that can be taught away from the long jump. So my lessons are 80% away it's skills hidden in warm up and that kind of stuff. And the last 20% is let's transfer that into the sand, and that can be quick rundown. But we've already done like 80% of the lesson is skipping and jumping over small hurdles, jumping over big hurdles, jumping for distance. Those are the skills we're looking to learn, and then we're transferring those in that last 20% of the lesson to then play with the long jump.
Yeah, and I've seen with the throws, obviously, you know, we've got vortex, we've got foam javelins, we've got quoits for discus, lighter quoits, you know, all those sort of things. You know, I can't say to a student, go down to the bottom of the field and throw the javelin, but I can say to a student, go down to the bottom of the field and throw a tennis ball. So I think, again, there
Yes,
are ways to, you know, I mean, we want them having as many goes as possible, don't we?
but one of the ways I deal with that is to don't worry about using the circle. We can what I use is the center circle of the football pitch, and that way we can have all of the students inside the circle throwing outwards. We can have 8 or 10 students throwing at the same time.
Yeah.
And everybody's on the inside with the ball going outside, so everyone's safe. We can talk to all the students easily because they're all in one place. And yeah, and we can throw javelins, shot put, discus like that because it's never going to go behind us when we throw.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, thanks for that, Martin. I genuinely hope, you know, a few more schools take this on board. As I say, there's so many brilliant things in athletics, and it could be so enjoyable that you know, I'd love to see it a little bit more in school sports. So thanks for your time today, Martin.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. If anyone needs me, you know where to find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Bye.